Thank you so much for joining us today. I hope everybody can be okay. So on the line we have Master Pro 10, Blue Elo. Blue, you there?
I am. You guys see me? Oh,
yes.
There we are. All right. How you guys doing this morning? Let's
amazing.
If you can kill. Oh, there's Tony. It is amazing. There's one line giving feedback, but I think we're good. Well, good, you guys. We want to continue this call. We'll kind of keep it short and sweet, unless you guys have a lot to talk about. But we do want to go through any questions and some best practices and stuff. I'm excited. I think I've already heard quite a bit of good feedback. I think normally I get feedback after this call, but this has been fun for me because we got a lot of good feedback and stuff over the weekend. So a lot of people are calling me saying, here's what's going on, or this was awesome. I didn't think this presenter was didn't know what to expect, but guess what I heard? This is incredible. And I love when I get feedback of people probably expecting less and receiving more, right? Overachieving what they thought. I don't always know what to think about when they expect so much less, but I think it's funny when they get more out of it. So let's just go around the horn. I think we don't got too many people on the call, but did you guys have just let me know just kind of the weekend was and a couple positive things that are going on in the area. I'll just give some quick feedback for Montana. You guys, what a great trip. I actually went out a day early and spent all day Thursday in Great Falls prior to getting to Missoula. And man, it was pretty cool. We actually talked to, I think we had about 60 people in Great Falls and about 28 to 30 guests, I think is what I counted when we raised hands. So half the room was guests. It was just an opportunity meeting Thursday night. And then we did the training Friday, which was their highest number of people at the training, they said. I think as long as they can remember, it was pretty neat just to have the Pro 3 step up and get there. It was really cool. And then Saturday was fun. Yeah, I just 4 straight hours, start to finish. And I just flowed well, and recognition went really well. I will say, Dan, that they gave you a play-by-play, they said, but the record for pre-enrollments there was 69, and I think we ended up at 72. So when you go back around the horn in 2 years, you can try again, buddy. We had a little, I guess every month they have a contest, and I didn't even know there was a contest. I just heard we were 2 away from beating the record, so we hung out a little bit and collected about 4 more and broke the record there, I guess. But
I didn't want to tell you that there
job.
was a competition because I knew what would happen, so we kind of kept that to ourselves.
Yeah, well, I didn't know there was, and then when I found out, we made sure to finish it off. But anyways, positive stuff, man. It was good. A lot of good feedback there, and that's always a challenge for me is following Dan around. We gotta try to one up someone that does a great job. It's pretty tough, but. Go ahead, guys. Any thoughts or questions? And more than just attaboys and good job. Let's if there's anything as far as best practices that we can share in a way of training, I think that'll be more valuable than just we had a good time. But if there's things that are going well in a certain area that are working, let's discuss some of those things this morning, and then we'll get into some other stuff. But
Blue?
Go ahead. Marcy? Go
Hi. How's everybody? Sorry, I just popped on a few minutes late. I'm in sunny Florida today. Getting ready to do a meeting in Stuart tonight. Anybody's got anyone down here, send them down. It's going to be great. So a couple things. One, I have a question around the building depth conversation, because maybe I'm the only host that's not part of the building depth group, and that might be why it's coming up. But is it something that you guys are promoting to, like, promote the the tear-off sheets, purchasing those, and there was like a talk about a sampling program and things like that. That is not a LifeVantage offering, and I was just questioning whether or not, because it just causes a little confusion from my side, and I don't want to be not supportive of what LVA is standing for. I just want to get clarity on that. And then also, I think as a best practice, if there are going to be opportune times when different leaders are going to ask for certain things, I think that the host is, I'm the host of my area, for example, so I'm on these calls, and if there's something that's coming that you're telling us that you want us as hosts to do, like for example, no opportunity meeting before the Saturday morning, do one if you want on Friday nights, that kind of thing. Those are things that I would know that other leaders in the market might not know. So, do we have some protocol or agreement, or can we just say like the presenter will talk to the host about those kinds of things and not, I just think.
Let me address those couple thoughts, because Friday night came up. You got a text on that and got that cleaned up and fixed, and then building depth was a question, and LV coaching. So let me address those, because I think these are great topics. We do have presenters that are, when I say inside and outside of building depth, I don't think that's like a line in the sand. I think it's just there's principles within the building depth concept that get, do what you say you're going to do, right? That if you hear that, some people think, oh, that's building depth principle. And I think, man, my mom told me that when I was 5, right? It really, it's
that's
wherever you
good.
go. So there will be some principles taught. Even the concept of depth, we taught before the word building depth and 5x5 came along. Width and depth have been conversations for a long time, but for whatever reason, now when we hear the word depth, I have a lot of people get calls, oh, I heard the word building depth. And to me, I'm like, well, if people use those principles to get to where they are, then we can teach that. Now, we're not recruiting, there's no promoting, we're not selling tools at the event. If somebody says, hey, where do I get the tear off? I think that'll help my team, and we give them a link, I think that's totally fine. We've allowed that. LV coaching is not a building depth program at all. Building depth uses the LV coaching and sampling app program. The LV coaching and sampling app are teams all over the entire. This may help us understand. The LV coaching is an app for personal growth and development. If you have the app, then you can use the sampling. LV coaching is a website. If you are subscribed to that website, then you can use the app for free and send samples to your friends, and if that's helpful. And that is a program for the whole company. If they want to use it, it's open to everyone, as well as the building depth concept if people want that. But yeah, we are trying to be sensitive, and I say we as a group, to anything being brought in, whether it's, we try to vet everything out here at our level. If it's something that people are using, especially in large numbers, it's working. And somebody says, I got caught on this last one. They said, what do you use for personal growth? I'm like, well, I use LV coaching, right? And somebody else says, well, I read my Bible. And somebody else says, well, I read this one book. And people say, oh, well, you're promoting this, this GoPro book. It was like, well, not really. I'm just telling you what I did to get to where I'm at. So if we're careful about how we teach what we're doing, I think it's appropriate. If we have a stack of books in the back and we're selling them on the way out, then we're going to have an issue, and we'll fix some of those things, because we actually had that before. We had a host who brought in a muscle testing doctor, and on the way out was selling a book and in the back for $25 a piece. And that caused some confusion, right? There's, teaching people what we did to get to where we're at. I hope people in the audience can say, I want to use that. My team doesn't use that. I don't want to use that, or I love that idea. I never thought of that, or man, the personal growth program I'm in isn't working, or it costs too much. Maybe that'll be better. I hope people in the audience can just kind of sift through the information and not think that it's an idea of the month club, because that's what we want to protect. But I want them to know that there's options out there. If a tear off helps their team and they can use it, and it beats a napkin, if that's what they're using now, then someone says, hey man, I'm gonna get rid of napkins, use tear offs. And someone else says, man, the PowerPoint from corporate's better than the tear off, because that's what I taught this last week. And I showed them the corporate PowerPoint. And some people said, oh, I never even really seen that. And it was weird. I thought, oh, well, let me show you, and we showed them some other ways. So I appreciate the concern. I do think that in general we're gonna police and watch a consistency in the messaging, and we're not pushing agendas, but we definitely are explaining ways that we got to where we are. I think anytime we go around that, we're not being authentic, and then we definitely want to make sure we're not selling stuff in back of the room. But if somebody wants to know where, get with me afterwards. If you need a website or something, I think that's good. And then you guys can also comment on some of this too. But let me also discuss the Friday night, since that came up.
Can I just say one thing? When we say, when the presenter says we, to me, we have the community could be guests. It's LifeVantage distributors. We, if you're in front of the room, I think should mean LifeVantage, not a subgroup of LifeVantage.
Yeah, that's probably fair to say. I use we a lot talking about my wife and I need to be careful too. I use we when I have a business partner. Colt and I, we did a lot of things certain ways, and so we just need to make sure to explain that, and that's a great best practice for the presenters to know and be careful when we're talking about we LifeVantage corporate, we LifeVantage distributors, or we, my wife and I, or we a certain
my team.
Yep. Let's just we can. That's a great recommendation, because we don't want people to be confused, thinking we as a standard. If it's just something my wife and I do, me and my wife go on a date night every week. That doesn't mean I'm taking everybody, right? Right. So I get that, and that's a great point. Any other thoughts, you guys, on those two things, and then we'll cover the rules on Friday, Saturday. Any other feedback? Because I know a lot of people are doing certain things. I think certain programs. I think for a while there, I know everyone is. Eric Roy was a big deal, and that was even talked about at events, and we had to be careful to teach that's what I did, but it's not what necessarily everyone does, right? I mean, so that was another thing we had to teach. And some people thought, man, I got to go spend $5,000 in order to be successful. We're like, no. And we dealt with that for a long time. And so we're cautious, we're careful with all of that. We want to be mindful, but man, if somebody, is using something that's working for them, and that's where they got to where they are, we want them to be able to teach that without being a change of the month club, but definitely as information as to ways to get to elite. So I hope that kind of helps. Any other thoughts? And then I'll talk about Friday, Saturday real quick. Okay. And we can jump in later if you have thoughts, but so the rule as of right now, you guys, like for example, I went in early to Montana because they wanted an opportunity meeting, but this was a couple hours away from where the venue was. Friday night, we discussed with the host ahead of time having an opportunity meeting, and they decided not to, at least in Montana. People drive from so far in, bring a guest in and attend that meeting. What typically happens, they bring a guest with them, and what's weird for them is to have a meeting or an opportunity meeting and then ask the guest to step outside for a couple hours while we have the leadership training. And that was kind of a consensus. I do see some areas that do well with that. In Texas, man, they use that as a way to promote the event. They're like, hey guys, sorry, if you're not Pro 3, you got to go, because we get some alone time, we get some one-on-one time. And there was some Pro 2s stepping out like, man, I got to step up. I got to get to Pro 3, right? It was almost cool to actually have them leave and do that. So we just want you to work with the host and figure out what's best. And a lot of times I've been able to add. The host thought it was good to not have a meeting on Friday night. And after talking with them, we added one for the first time. And we had 12 guests there, and it was successful. So work with the presenter who may want to do one, and with the host who may want to or may not. I think it goes both ways depending on our experiences, and see if you can come to a conclusion that works for the area, and we do the most good for the most people, right? Kind of like triage. And if you're a medic, you know what that means, right? You get to scene, you do the most good for the most people. If there's dead and dying, you have to walk away to help 4 other people that are injured, right? And so the idea is that we want to do the most good we can. Now, that's the options for Friday night. What is not an option Friday night is to get rid of the training. Okay, some people say, "Oh, just having a dinner and we're just talking about it." What we want, at least what we're asking you to do and what we're asking as presenters to do, is to for sure do a training Friday night, and do a training for the Leaders Friday and a training Saturday. The opportunity meeting has been asked so much, and we had just over a 50-50 split, so we decided to make that optional. Saturday is for training. We haven't discussed or added the option to have an opportunity meeting on Saturday. So that did come up this weekend. We've had 2 different groups where people were asking for that on Saturday. And we got some text messages. We answered them. No, Saturday is just to do that. This is the training. We got the answers back and cleared some of that up. Some of the presenters were unaware, and so that's kind of why we do this update. If there's new presenters that missed some of those updates in the past, we're making sure that they know or whatever. So hope that's clear. I mean, it's pretty simple. We want you to have some leeway, but we don't want this to be a program where you show up every month and see what's different, right? That's not necessarily the idea of the leeway. The leeway is to add your personal experiences, add your story. And we went to Montana. We probably talked to 50 guests in 3 days by them utilizing some of this ahead of time and talking ahead of time. And we got in front of guests, did a great leadership training, and we also got the 4-hour training done on Saturday. So there's ways to do it. We just got to work really well together. Typically before you get there, makes that run a little smoother to know how to do that. But any other thoughts on that, guys? I mean, that's where we are now. If somebody feels strongly one way or the other, we can continue to discuss this. But as of right now, that's where we have agreed to as a leadership team after hearing, literally years of debate back and forth, and Good's one way and Good's the other. And we ended up there, and it seems to be working pretty well, minus a couple, getting the information out and getting the host and presenter on the same page and things like that. But we're getting there. So any thoughts on that, guys?
What's your thoughts, Blue, on Friday night on the pro? Some places are Pro 5 and higher. Some are Pro 4 and higher. Some are Pro 3 and higher. And then I'm constantly quizzed all the time. Do you mind if I bring in a Pro 3? My area is only Pro 4 and up. Do you mind if I bring in a Pro 3 that's on fire? Absolutely on fire. And what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I'll give you my thoughts, guys. Anyone on fire, personally, I want to meet with them. But in reality, here's what we're trying to do. At first, it was all Pro 5s across the board. And all Pro 5s were invited, and we used it really well in some areas. And we promoted, if there was only 5 people in the room, instead of asking to go to Pro 4, dude, we just taught you got to get more people to Pro 5. And it was actually powerful when we took ownership and did it that way. But when we start after the kind of the split a few years ago, and we ended up going from 35 to 22 areas, there was a few exceptions we made, because in that case, there was 2 Pro 5s sometimes in an area. And we don't want someone to fly in and spend, I mean, it's awesome, 2 hour with 2 people spending 2 hours, but we found if we went to Pro 4s, we got 10 people. So we're looking for about 10 to 20 people. I think over 20, I want to bump the rank back up, because you get 30, 40 people in a room, and it's no longer the intimate one-on-one training we wanted. So then we went to Pro 3s in a couple areas for the same reason. And then in a couple areas, they woke back up, and now the Pro 3s were 22 people, right? And so we're balancing what to do there. And if you guys have advice, let me know. As of right now, my thought is this. If there's a rule in an area, we have to maintain that. And what I mean by that is as soon as you make one exception, there's 10 other people that are going to be concerned why their people didn't bring their buddy who was on fire, or the person they thought was on fire. And I showed up at one place, and they had a guest in the room, and they just flat out said, yeah, I just made an executive decision and brought a guest. And it made a lot of people mad. I mean, we don't want that. I would rather offer this as a presenter. Say, hey, if you have a Pro 3 that's on fire, I'm going to be in at 3:30. I'd love to meet with them 15 minutes at 4 o'clock, right? I mean, I don't mind doing a little bit of that to help the area, but to make an exception because of the host said or someone else said, it's pretty soon you got people, running for host positions, so to speak, so that they can have a say to change things. And so this is the platform we would change that. If you guys came here and said, guys, we really need to go to Pro 3s in this area, and here's why, and we took that back and discussed it with the owners, leaders, and decided, then I think that's appropriate. But if it's a Pro 3 dinner, let's make sure that Pro 3s and above are there. And if a Pro 2 has to step out because they're 2 days away from hitting it, then as of right now, that's the incentive. So that's my thoughts. If you guys can throw stuff out, I'm not trying to be hard-nosed at all. If there's a guy on fire, I want to talk to him. But man, we can't. The thought of who's on fire and who isn't. We could have a room full of Pro 2s and have 80 people there because they think they're on fire, right? So I don't know. Just think that through. But what's your guys'
Hey,
thoughts?
Blue, can I make a comment?
Absolutely, Michael. Thanks.
So here's kind of just my thought process of it, because it's one of the main things that I thought about and I wrote some stuff down about, is that I think because that's our foundation rank, and that's the first thing that when we look at people stay the longest, and we're trying to create Pro 3s on a regular basis as far as the pace setter program and that. And look, I'm just a humble guy here to just share my opinion. I think that moves people to be challenged, to be a part of that. And when they get, like, I'll be honest with you, I just got 2 messages this morning from people in Fairfield. They came to the Friday night, they were Pro 3, and somebody that they brought to, who was a Pro 1 because they signed up with a Platinum Pack, enrolled their first distributors because the Pro 3 brought them and encouraged them to come because they went to the Friday night thing, because there was 2 people in the room that knew who I was. So when you go into an area like that and you see all these people, they get fired up on Friday night, and then they bring a whole bunch more. And there was standing room only in the room. So that's just my 2 thoughts. I think that if you can get Pro 3s there and it motivates them to do more, heck, I'm all for it. I don't know what anybody else thinks.
Yeah, I love that idea. Now, what you guys, if we went Pro 3 across the board, the goods are we're going to get some people there Friday. The possibility is we're going to turn that into more of just a group meeting and not a personal mentor program. But what is your thoughts on that? I mean, we do have a couple areas that are holding on to 4s and 5s. We have areas that get 5s in the room, and there's still 15 people there. So not a lot, but there's a few. And so we're trying to do it case by case based on that information. But I agree. I mean, we came down to Pro 3. If you notice, we came down to that rank when we were really pushing the foundation rank for that same reason. We recognize the value of that as well. So, and a lot of them are Pro 3s. I don't have the exact numbers, and we can get those if we need to. But any more thoughts on that, guys? Everett, do you have a specific thought since you brought it up, or you?
Well,
answer?
The only dilemma is on the deal is if you're in an area where, you got 3 people that show up to the dinner and that's it. And there's 2 Pro 6s and 1 Pro 5. And they're going, man, we got a lot of Pro 3s and Pro 4s that are just killing it right now, but they're not allowed to come. And I think it should be kind of, Blue, it's up to you on you and Marcel, but areas like Phoenix or, a big area where they've got a massive amount of Pro 6s and Pro 5s, Denver or places like that, to where Pro 3s and Pro 4s would be too much in the room. Because it does. It becomes a meeting. It becomes chaotic. And you're just sitting there watching the whole time. You're not doing anything but just sitting there listening to them all talk amongst each other. But the issue is you get to an area and they have 3 people that show up to the meeting, and they go, "We could have filled it."
Where were you, Everett? Because this is exactly why we go to 4. I mean, if there's only 3 people in the room, that we don't want it. We want 10 to 20 people. So I think that's been my rule. If 6 are showing up at Pro 5 and 15 at Pro 4, then we change it to 4, right? I mean, that's been the standard of why we've changed. So this is good feedback. If you're in an area that has a 6 and 2 5s, then I mean, one idea would be, let's get going. But in reality, we don't want to waste the next six months of meetings not training people if we can change it to Pro 4 and see what we get. But what we would do is call the host, work with them on a number. If Pro 4 takes care of the problem, then we're good. If Pro 3 takes care of it, then we're good there too. But what city were you in, Everett, just so we can?
It's just across the board. Some bonehead missed his flight Friday, so I didn't get in late Friday night. But typically that's what happens almost in every event I go to. When Friday night's important. Friday night's a huge deal. Yeah. And in fact, it's one of my favorites because that's how I set my meeting, my whole cadence for Saturday is dependent on what happens Friday night and what they talk about. And that's what sets the whole mood and the whole tone of what goes on. I'll go back to my room and I'll rearrange my whole PowerPoint presentation depending on what happens Friday night. And if there's only 2 people or 3 people show up, depending on where I'm at, then I'm kind of confused or we get kind of going, well, I'm basing this off of 2 people's opinions or 5 people's opinions. and
Yeah.
that's it.
Well, let's do this, you guys, and this is why we have this call. Send an email to Mikey with any group that's getting, less than 10 people, at the Friday night meeting. And let's evaluate those areas. And Everett, if you know some of those areas, just text me or email them to Mikey, and she'll bring them up, because we meet every couple of weeks and we go through stuff like this, areas that are lower, opening new areas, things like that. And so we want to know that. And that's been our standard for a while, but some areas might be falling through the cracks, or a host is just not knowing that and holding on. And we don't get everyone on this call. If you look at right here, we probably have a third of the presenters and a third of the host in reality. So any feedback you guys getting out to those groups, and just say, hey, if this is a normal thing, like if there's a one-off weekend, there's 5 people because of something going on, that's different than everyone busting their tail. They're only getting 4 people in the room. So
one of the things is that
Blue?
I feel Blue is
Clinton, go ahead, and Marcy after that. Clinton, go ahead, bud.
Okay.
So I feel that the host, like Marcy's a host, I feel the host, if the leader, the speaker is speaking with the host know who's showing up for the leadership meeting. If we're putting it in the location where everybody can attend, if we're putting it in a location to where they know how many people they can get to show up, if we're promoting right. It's all about promotion as well, from the host and also from the speaker coming in, right? So I feel that if us as speakers are speaking to the host before time, and we're scheduling ourselves to come in, and we're scheduling ourselves right, like I went into Denver this time. Obviously, there's a ton of leaders in Denver. I spoke before. We did an opportunity meeting from 6:30 to 7:30, and then the leadership meeting from 8 o'clock until 9:30, 10 o'clock. But we knew that we had to go there. There's not as many 5s showing up, so we went to Pro 4. Pro 4 to Pro 5, there was about 21, 22 people in the room, and it was perfect, okay? So I think we also have to gauge it ourselves. When do we go to Pro 3? When there's only Pro 4s and Pro 5s, when there's only about 8, 9 people showing up, and then we go to Pro 3s, and that's when there's 15, 20 people show up. I agree the foundational rank at Pro 3, it's absolutely phenomenal to get them there, but we also have to keep this Friday night as an intimate opportunity to meet the leadership, to help the leadership grow. I think Pro 3 is absolutely incredible to get those Pro 3s there when it's the right time. So I think we just have to gauge it as leaders and speak to those hosts and continue it that way.
Let me add one piece of that, because I totally agree, Clinton. The only here's my only thought is if the standard is 25 in an area and they're getting about 6 or 7, right? We may want to go to Pro 4. If the host and the presenter decide that, the only issue with that is the next month. Because we have that number on the list. You guys have seen the rotation, right? On the rotation, it gives the rank in which that area has been approved for. And the only reason we do that is what we don't want is Pro 4s 1 week and Pro 5s the next, and Pro 4s. We want the area to be a standard, so the whole area is pushing to get to Pro 4 to get to that event. But it sounds like a good change. If we went from 6 or 7 to 20, I think we're close. If we're 8 or 9, I may want to push the higher rank better, because sometimes you drop down a rank, you jump to 20. It's hard to ever go back the other way. When that number goes to 30 and then to 40, it's hard to say, okay, guys, from now on, starting next month, we're going to go back to Pro 5 to get the 40 down to 20, and we're kicking people out. So it's hard to go that way. So we try not to just go down to make it easier. Or what we want to do is help everyone step up as much as we can to stretch. But if our stretch is 5 people, then we're at the wrong rank. So, and we understand that. So let's discuss that on here, or call us, and then let's change the rank on the actual rotation form to whatever that standard is. But what I would ask is, if it's not changed on there, we haven't decided as a group, let's leave it whatever's on there, just so we don't run into the issue of it changing 1 week or going back or 1 month to the next. But it sounds like we're close on that one. Let's discuss that one as well a little bit later. But Marcy, did she just jump off? Oh, we might have lost her. She was going to say something too. But any thoughts on that, guys? That's my thought, is if we keep it a standard, at least on that deal. If we could go across the board and say Pro 5s everywhere, Pro 3s everywhere, would be easy. But I think taking it case by case is helping a little bit. It's not confusion. We're trying to make
Blue, let me ask a question on that then. Are you speaking with the host for each one of these locations, and they're helping you set the standard for that location.
Yeah, all the standards have been, well, they were all Pro 5, like I said. And then
Okay.
if a host call or the presenter call, I've actually been a presenter in an area and said, hey, I called the host and said, what do you think about bumping this to Pro 4? Because you maybe feel like you waste when you go in there and there's 3 people in the room. We did that in Hawaii. We went to Pro 3 from Pro 5 because of with the change and stuff. And when we went and they started broadcasting it online, then we had some people that weren't flying. And this was the idea. We didn't want them to pay the $200 round trip ticket to get back and forth. So we saved a lot of people from flying in. But because of that, we needed to go from 5 to 3. So we had a reason. And when we went to Pro 3, and we had 9 people in the room, and it was awesome. It was perfect.
And then is that when we speak to Mikey and just say, hey, look, there's 4 or 5 people, maybe 3 people at this leadership meeting. Hey, could we talk to the host and actually maybe talk about moving that?
Yeah,
up?
that can come from
that's fair.
or a presenter or a host, and then we discuss those every couple of weeks. We'll change it as needed, and when you see that little button on there, and here's another thing, guys. Some of you guys are doing a good job at doing a video beforehand, right? Hey, I'm coming into town. This is going to be awesome. Pay attention to what that rank is, because a good presenter is going to say, hey, that's Pro 4 in that area. And they're going to know it's Pro 4, and they're going to say on that video, say, hey, Pro 4s and above, I'll see you Friday night. If you're Pro 3 right now, work hard because I'd love to teach you. And use those to motivate people to push. I mean, that's the whole idea. But if you say, hey, Pro 3s, I'll see you on Friday, and it's actually Pro 5 and above, we're going to confuse a bunch of people. So pay attention to that rotation. But that's good feedback, guys. I think let's just keep it this way. From 10 to 20 is kind of the middle range. If it's less than 10, let's look at bumping it. And if it's over 20, let's have a discussion at keeping it down. And I think we're close on that. So, Marcy, go ahead. I think you got kicked off for a second.
I did. So just a couple things here. One, I think I agree with you. The consistency is important. We did have like a little bit of an off month this past month, but I think it was just the holiday, but we still made our number. The thing I want to say is what Marcel told me to do, because we had a situation, even when Marcel came, we had an elite leader that invited guests that had, they weren't as necessarily as committed to the threshold. And Marcel told me to just let him know that next time I was going to be standing at the door, and like literally I was going to ask whoever, he's like, just stand there, and if someone's coming in, you know who they are, if they're 5 or above, and if they're not, then just ask them to leave. And I was like, are you sure? And he goes, yeah, just do it. So all of it, I put the information out the following month, did this for every month in a row. I just said Pro 5 and above by invitation, or RSVP only, help me with this. Basically, I just, like, Marcel told me to turn people away, and I put it on Marcel, and it took care of it. So if you have to just say, this isn't mine, this is just what LVA says to do, and it worked. So
good. And those are some great best practices. First best practice, blame it on Marcel, not Blue. I love that one. That was perfect. The second one is let them know ahead of time. If you guys call it a Pro 5 training, Pro 4 training, Pro 3 training Friday night, that'll help people understand what it is. Invitation only is a great one. Those RSVPs are good. Those are a list of great ideas to help if you're having that issue. And if you're a presenter and you notice someone in the back that's brand new, then, we don't want to deal with it right there. We're trying to be smart about it. If we catch it on the way in, that's one thing. If we're in the room, we're going to be respectful, but at the same time, let's make sure to address it. And who brought so-and-so, and hey, this is for this reason. Let's get them to Pro 3, man, and they can come next month, right? Let's push for the positive. But any other thoughts, guys? Oh, that's a good point and some good best practices.
I'm sorry. One more best practice, and I forgot to say this one. When we have someone who goes to Pro 5, obviously we're gonna acknowledge them directly. And the thing I do is I will ask the Pro 5 or ask the presenter to ask the Pro 5 to talk about what the leadership meeting was like last night. So it's just a way to amplify and promote getting to Pro 5 to get the lead meeting. It's always a good thing to be just edifying and building up that leadership meeting. It is powerful. I'm so grateful. So I mean, I saw Clinton on here. I mean, I gotta tell you, there's some of you guys that I'm so eternally grateful for your incredible hearts and sacrifice. I just want to say big thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, recognition. That's another best practice in recognition. We had 3 people one time that got back from the Pro 5 Summit. They weren't new 5s, but they had hit it and they hit rank, and that became the bulk of our recognition. Was just we talked about promoting events. We used it in between promoting events and recognition, so it worked for both. It was awesome. And so again, presenters, you might have a style that works. Don't change that. It's awesome. We want your personality in that recognition. But if we have a host that has some ideas, work with them, especially if there's a certain thing going on, or someone that just hit rank, or someone that just did something special. Let's make sure to include that, especially with some of the promotional trips coming up. Ireland's coming up. We're going to have some cool things to do here in the future if we're really careful at knowing in the room. Raise your hand if you did that, and just be smart. If 20 people raise their hand, you don't want to say beforehand, everyone who went to Ireland, come up, and then you realize there's 20 people, right? You got to be smart. What I do first is saying, hey, Pro 5s, Pro 6s, Pro 7s, Pro 8s, Pro 9s. Okay, let's recognize the 6s and above, because that was 5 people, right? In some areas, you got to say, okay, Pro 8s and above come up and share a nugget, because that's 4 or 5 people. And so you don't want to make it a standard Pro 5s and above always share, or Pro 6s, because every area is different. So those are just some things to ask first. Hey, recognize everybody before you call a group up. Make sure you know how many's in the group and what it looks like. But man, if 3 people got back from Pro 5 Summit, that's a 10 minutes worth taking. Come on up, you 3. I want to hear what you learned. That's incredible. So great ideas. Any other thoughts, guys?
One other promotion. There are, cases over and over and over of people, hosts are missing a huge boat, and so are leaders in their area are missing a huge boat by not what Blue. What Blue just talked about was doing a video of some sort, a promotional video with your speaker in your area, and push that like crazy a week or 2 weeks beforehand and get your numbers way up. Just even Gillette, more than doubled because of that reason. And be able in your area to hit those, if you're at 50 or 60 and you want to hit 80 and 90, start promoting. It's a gift. It's something that I don't think there's anybody on this call that wouldn't do it. And if they don't, man, I would say something.
Hey, Blue. I agree with you. I did it twice. Linda can tell you, I did it 2 times in the Bangor group. Their numbers went up drastically. And I just did it in Northern California. And in one feed, there was 7 people who hadn't registered that went and registered. So I went and did another one on Thursday prior to the event, right when the ticket sales are getting ready to close. Did another one, and 5 more people went and signed up. So I think the consistency of the message, and then I sent I sent it to the leaders there and said, hey, look, if you guys want to send this video out, go ahead and do it, and copy people's names down in the bottom so that they can have the access to that. So those videos are absolute, should be written in stone that all of us do it. That's just my thought.
I agree. I think most everyone is. I appreciate those that are. It's hard to make certain things mandatory, but I think that's just something we want to say. This is what we do. We can even add that into the training for presenters, and the hosts, because it needs to be a joint effort there. But man, thank you guys for doing that, because what it does, I've had this happen where I'll tell just a little bit of my story, and the trick to those is tell a little bit, but I'll see you guys Friday, Saturday, right? You just tee it up, get them excited. And then right when they're excited, just stop talking and say, I'll see you Saturday, and turn the video off, right? Because really that's what we're trying to do. But I've even done Zoom opportunity meetings in the area, or small leadership group deals where it's just, again, 15 minutes, you get them excited, you tell your story. What happens in their minds is they say, man, that personality just reminded me of 3 of my buddies, or that story just hit and they just start inviting a few extra people. Especially if you're having an opportunity meeting, which you can promote on that call if you talk ahead of time and say 6:30 to 7:30, guys, bring your guests, bring your friends. And then after that meeting, it works really well if you take the leaders somewhere else instead of kicking people out. I think that helps. But go somewhere for 2 hours and sit down, maybe 8 to 9:30 or 10, and dig through the stuff a little bit. Because I'm like you guys, I spend the next 2 hours after that. We built Saturday in modules on purpose, right? You have all of these different segments, and I go hide one segment and open up another one because this group needs this, and they don't really need this as much as I thought they did. And so that will modify. And Saturday will always be better if we'll listen really well Friday night, and then take a little bit of time. And usually it's till 1 or 2 in the morning by the time you're done with the training. But that time was well spent. I mean, you get up the next morning, drink some action, and go hit it hard for 4 hours and sleep on the way home, right? But we appreciate what you guys are doing. I agree on the video beforehand. We'll do a better job at training that principle earlier, making it more of a standard. And Mikey, we can add that in the notes if you will too, for hosts and presenters. But let's make that more of a standard, because those that are doing that, I'm definitely see a lot of good things from that. So.
And the big thing on that is not everybody's as famous as Blue or Clint or, Mark Harris or something. And some of them don't know who we are at all. And if they don't know you, they're confused. Mark's over shaking his finger. If they don't know you, they're going, I don't know this dude, man. I don't know if I want to show up. And then all of a sudden they meet you on a line, and you're doing something like Blue said, you cut it off and you get them wound up, and they're going, oh man, I got to call 4 or 5 of my distributors. They better be there for this one. And how many times have you done a Saturday meeting and they went, I wished we would have met you earlier. We would have had a ton of people at this. And I think that's one of the silliest statements I've ever heard, because you promote from event to event, but it's a fact. If they don't know you, or they're kind of confused in who you are, then I don't know who this guy is, or I don't know who this lady is, and I don't know if I'm going. And they just do it. 100%. And you can fix it.
Yeah, and there's 2 ways to kind of do that. And for a while, the consensus was, at least when we were LVA as a whole, was just don't talk about who's coming. We promote the event, not the person, right? And that's one way of kind of getting people to always be wondering. But the better way, I think, is to say, no, this who's coming. Here's who he is or she is, and here's why, and here's their story, and here's a little bit, at least those last few days. Most people that are already going to register from event to event, they're already going to be registered, right? We're trying to clean up that last 20, 30, 40 people that might jump in because of a hairdo or something like Everett's. I mean, who knows? Whatever the reason is. But so,
hey, Blue.
Thoughts, guys? Thank you, Everett. That was good.
Blue, I caught that. That was funny.
I used to catch half of the stuff on the way home 2 hours later. I'm like, dude, that was hilarious, but I missed it. Go ahead, buddy.
I think it's Stacy. Stacy has a question, I think.
Thanks. Hi, Blue. Hi, good morning. Hi, good morning, everybody. So a couple thoughts. One is I love the welcome video. Michael Huey, am I saying that right? Yeah. When you came, it was awesome, and I think it made a really huge difference. So I just wanted to add that. And then also, like, our area is really small. We do include the Pro 3s and 4s and 5s, which is great. And I love the idea of keeping it small, because that's, I believe, how it's most effective. One of the things that we've had, because it's so small, it's kind of an issue, is that we're really clear on the rank, what rank you have to be a part of the leadership night. And regardless of that, because it's so small, people feel like, well, there's only, 6 or 7 people. Can I, my husband just stay? Or can my mom just stay? And what we're finding is it's really difficult when someone's looking at you and saying, there's only 8 people here. Can't my mom just stay? And I have such a soft, heart. It's really hard for me. Like, no, make them leave right now. So I'm not sure, how to address that, but I did just hear you say, like, maybe after the opportunity meeting, leave and go somewhere else. And that might be a more natural way to kind of break up the situation, because the way we're doing it is having a potluck, opportunity meeting followed by leadership. And so it just feels really unnatural to make people leave.
Yeah. This is the one downfall of having an opportunity meeting, right? Now, if there's 20 guests in the room, man, it's a small downfall, right? We'll deal with the blows, because we want those 20 guests to hear from somebody. But the reality is we could have had that opportunity the night before, because the guests really don't know the difference between a Pro 5, Pro 6, Pro 7, Pro 8. So that was kind of the consensus before, is we got 29 days a month to go do opportunity meetings. That's all trained. But I do think there's enough good in saying, here's my reasoning for wanting the opportunity meeting Friday night. If you're a Pro 7 in your area, or Pro 6 and you're the one that does the meetings, it's sometimes hard to bring certain guests when you're the one talking all the time. And what I love is when I come to town, I tell people I got phase 2, I'll do the meeting, but man, put on your invite hat as an elite and go to town. I mean, go as a Pro 6. This is where you bring 10 new people and get your business built because someone's coming to town to be the voice that you usually are. And so I like the idea of making sure that's in there somewhere if you can. Now, the second piece is, if it's a spouse, you guys, I probably wouldn't kick them out. I mean, that to me, that's a partnership in that deal. I would be careful doing that at all because that might be what gets them excited to work together. So that would be one idea. A mom, I wouldn't kick my mom out, but that's just me. My dad will kick my dad died 2 years ago. He'd still kick my butt somehow if I did that. But so the word family we got to be careful with. So you guys this is why we have you as hosts. There's personalities. There's ways to deal with things in civil ways. There's ways to plan an event and look at the details that most people don't look at. If you have a dinner that's only 30 minutes and you try to start kicking people out and they're still holding their fruit salad in their hand, you're going to have an issue, right? I mean, you got to plan the whole thing. We have enough time to eat. We're going to talk for a few seconds and say thank you to everybody. And then we're going to step into the back room or the guest house or the other area, and we're going to go do this or go down to the different house even across the street or whatever. But yeah, you guys figure it out. I'm not going to micromanage all that. This is why we call it best practices. Think of ideas, listen, ask questions. Let's come up with what's best. Don't make a scene. Let's not make it big. But if the same person's bringing someone every time and they know you're not going to make a scene, then, I mean, get us involved if we need to, but we want it to be a standard. We want it to be fair as best we can. So those are great thoughts. I appreciate it. I'm like, it's hard to, I don't want to say anything negative or mean to anybody, but you never know when that one thing will be said that'll help somebody as well. But we also have, sometimes we get the leadership dinner I found where we had a guest one time and the guest asked 20 questions and it just distracted from the whole thing. You got 30 guests that came in early and we ended up talking about an opportunity stuff because somebody brought somebody they shouldn't have and it changed the meeting. So keep that in mind as well. We can balance it. You guys, the last thing here, I mean, you guys welcome to jump in, but we are opening Atlanta. Jason's kind of headed some of that up. We got some good numbers there. And I'm just going to tell all you guys, let's kick it hard and use that. We'll get we got a lot of people with folks there. And they've been having some stuff there, but majority of them been calling, asking for something a little bit more. A monthly touch would be better. And so I believe we're going to have over 100 plus people there. And if you guys do that, the only concern, and I'm just going to bring this up to everyone as a group, is let's continue to promote out in Tennessee, because we do have a lot of people that were kind of in between. And they're going out there. And Tennessee's been getting 50, 55, 60 people. They're right at 50 last month with some stuff going on. And there's some leaders there that were busy doing some life stuff that just got over that are running again. So I don't think there'll be a big issue, but let's just be mindful of that. It's not we're not promoting one or the other. And, it's whatever's most convenient, man. If you're in the middle and you got a guest that's on the way to Atlanta, go that way, man. But if you're on the way to the other way and that works for you, keep going. I'm about that. We don't want to lose one, but it doesn't make sense to not add one that has 100 people and take one from 60 to 50, right? And we lose 10 people because I don't think they're lost. I just think they show up somewhere else. So I think we're fine, but just keep that in mind, you guys. Big announcement, and as areas get ready, we have three other areas right now that are kind of in the running to be added. With the right numbers. And so we're excited. We're excited for the expansion. We're excited to see the payouts are covering everything. I hope for everybody. I know every now and then there's a certain flight and an extra hotel, but it averages out because when I get to teach in Tucson, I don't need to buy an airplane ticket. So it averages out, right? So if you run the whole circuit, it'll work out for you. And but thank you guys for doing that. So any other quick thoughts before we close out? I don't want to take too much time here.
Yeah, Blue, I have one quick thought with regards to promoting. I have heard feedback from different areas, and it's like, there is so much awesome information that was coming at us, but, we almost forgot to promote the next event until the very last 5 minutes of the event. As hosts, as presenters, I think that it's vital that we take a couple moments in the beginning maybe even the middle before recognition, and then again at the end to promote these events. And I've seen some very creative things that people have done, whether it be raffling off the swag that the hosts are receiving, or I've seen leaders even put up their own kinds of things like registration for the next event. You know, put in a raffle for anybody that pre-registers for either swag or maybe the next additional registration for the next LVA. So I don't know what our thoughts are on that, like the swag bag, a registration for the next LVA, and just, you know, as hosts and leaders, making sure that we're promoting very, very heavily, because that's one of the strongest behaviors that we have. Effective promoting and edification is an absolute must with these things in order to keep these markets not only stable but increasing in volume.
Well, Dan, if we taught a class, there's about 4 people that we can follow around, and you just watch the pre-registration numbers. They in some cases are higher than the number of people in the room, and we could have those 5 people teach a class to all of us, because I'm one that would be learning from that as well. And you're one of them as far as that beginning, middle, and end, those touches, sometimes a slide in your PowerPoint to remind everybody, taking time to stop and do that. I mean, there's some powerful ways that people have done that. I love the idea of the swag bag. We did that this last time. It was fun. I don't know why people are so excited about a t-shirt, but it works, man. I'm more excited about hitting Pro 7-8 and retiring and being with my kids, but sometimes that's hard to see. But you can see a t-shirt in the front of the room, right? And it's your size. It's got your name on it, and man, I'll buy and get in on that deal. So say this, I love the 2 idea. I don't like the 10 idea. We've had some people in the past bought 5 and 10, you know, and they end up pawning them off in half price, and it gets crazy, and you have people trying to dish tickets. I'd much rather everyone get 2, and then everyone in the room go use the principles they learned, enroll 1 new person, and invite them to come with you with the ticket that's in your hand. That's good behavior. 5 tickets and 4 empty seats, I don't like. But I love, like you said, too. You get everyone that bought 2 tickets in 1 drawing, that would be a cool way to do that as well. What does that do? It takes the load off the host, right? Otherwise, you have the host trying to get the numbers up. Now you got 25 people in the room all trying to get the numbers up by doing their little piece. That's how you grow an area, and it's powerful. My most successful time, I'll tell you what I did, and it was kind of just off the cuff, but it worked excellent, is I had a big talk about pre-registering. I had a talk, and I said, who in here does not think that they can take the information they learned and enroll 1 person in the next 30 days? And was like, no, I can do that. Can you enroll 1 person? Yeah. Do they need to be here next month? Yes. Then do we need 2 tickets? Yes. Right. We just taught them the principle, and I had them hold up if they were going to buy 1 ticket or 2 tickets. But before they put their hand down, I got my phone out and I turned on video, and I just videoed the crowd with their 1 or 2 fingers up. And the funny thing was, all I said is, hey, I'm going to send this to your host. They'll follow up with you on if you got those tickets bought. And no one really knew if their video came out very well, or if they could see me in the back.
That was
so
they Blue.
Very, yeah, they felt really committed. And that video, whether it was seen later or not, kept people at least accountable for what they agreed to at the time. And sometimes we need help with that, right? You know, the ability, the diligence to do the deed after the emotion of the moment has passed. Yes, we need it. Yes, I need to. I'm going to be here. The next morning, if you haven't registered, sometimes the idea of me getting there, I'll just wait a couple weeks and see, and pretty soon that law of diminishing intent, right? We slowly talk ourselves out of it, and instead of doing it at the time. So that video helps people remember, no, I committed to it. I'm going to do what I said I'm going to do, and I'm going to hold to that and get there. So we had some really good numbers that way. But you guys, awesome thoughts. Dan, go ahead. Got another thought?
I just also think that keeping the element of curiosity, you know, because I'll say, guys, you know, we know what the rotation is for the next 12 months. And if you knew what I knew, you would not miss next month, you know, and we could say that as presenters for every one of us, because all of the presenters that teach at these things are absolutely phenomenal. They're qualified, right? Like, don't negotiate the price of success. This breaks down to $6.25 an hour, 4 hours of your Saturday, 1 day a month. Is it worth it? You know, I mean, don't negotiate it. So, I mean, just keeping that element of curiosity and just right between the eyes. And it's like, guys, we're not doing this because we need you to spend the money. We're doing this because we want you to be professional network marketers. We want you to go around and teach. We want to learn from you next, you know, that kind of thing. So absolutely. Just a thought.
I like that. And Dan and I play all the time because they want nuts, and by the time Dan's done, I get to come in and tell funny stories and be the nuts, right? So and I think he tells that same story when he leaves. And so people pick up where they left off when we get there, but it's been a lot of fun. Anything else, guys? We're right at 1 hour here. I just want to thank all of you. This would not work without good leaders who are committed and do what they say they're going to do. They get there, they get through the issues, the flight issues. I had one flight one time. I get up there and they said, yeah, we're getting a part for the plane. And I said, okay, well, how long is that going to take? He said, well, it's been delayed. I said, okay, well, how long? He said, well, it's been delayed indefinitely. Like, I never heard that one before. I was like, well, we need to work on another flight then, because I'm sitting over here waiting for a delay as opposed to getting another flight. And it was like, oh yeah, we might want to work on that, right? I mean, it's hilarious, and stuff happens. We get there and we make things work. We have great hosts that have filled in when needed. We have great substitutes that fill in when we have to. But more importantly, those that don't need subs, that are there every time and they're consistent, that's what we're after. And we appreciate all you guys willing to do that. So call me independently if you need something else. You guys don't be shy if there's something we can help with or explain, ideas, best practices. Let's make this better and better. We're not opposed to positive change, but we are opposed to ideal of the month, right? There's a difference in positive change and flipping an idea every time we think about it. There's a big difference. And so good change is good, right? We don't mind that. If there's something better we can do, let us know. We're all ears, and we'll adapt and grow together as this gets bigger and bigger. So thank all of you guys. You're welcome to say bye real quick and unmute, and we'll go from there. Real quick, Mikey, I guess, before we go, did you have anything for everybody?
So I just created the link for Atlanta. If anybody wants to know, I just sent it on the chat here. And the link is lva-atlanta-may18.eventbrite.com. But I'll be sending that over in an email so everybody can have it. Cool?
Okay. Thank you. I didn't know if there's something else we're missing. Presenters, look for that email. We will always send one email out Wednesday or Thursday before the event with any updates, anything we missed, anything new, anything to focus on or not focus on or whatever. We'll want to keep your eye open for that, and then just budget this time after the events. If we can get everyone on here, the better we do. And even as presenters, ask, hey, ask the host, are you jumping on that call? We'd love your feedback. Or the other way around, if you're a host, tell the presenter, are you getting on the call? Because right now we'd love to have about 4 times these numbers and make sure everyone knows what's going on. Because the only issues we've had is when something falls through the crack, usually information-wise. We have good people. They're willing to do what needs to be done. We just need to get information.
Call, but I don't want to do one without Jade.
All right. Thank you, guys. We'll see you, Mike. See you guys.
Thank you, guys. Have a good day.